What's happening, Reject Nation? It's Greg Alba here.
And it's John over here.
So we're going to cover the top movie news of the week, and of course for the people over at Patreon, you'll get a few more extra stories that we'll be covering over there exclusively. But today we'll be going into the movie news of the week from around July 7th to July 14th. We got about 5 stories here. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so our top story, rumor has it that Quentin Tarantino's next feature film, he's supposed to retire after a couple more films, which I don't think he'll actually fully commit to. Just a big perfect transparent, that's not gonna really happen. He's gonna do one of them Soderbergh things, I betcha.
I feel like any creative who retires just needs a break.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm gathering from this. Supposedly his next story, his next movie that he's developing is quite an interesting choice.
Yeah.
He might do a Charles Manson movie, and he's reportedly been in talks, reports come from Deadline, that he is he's prepping to do a Charles Manson biopic story that will probably center a little bit more around it sounds like the trials and the investigation, because it's said that he's been courting Brad Pitt to play the detective who's the lead on the case. Jennifer Lawrence possibly for the Sharon Tate role. In case you guys don't know the Charles Manson story, Charles Manson had a cult, and then a few of his followers murdered Sharon Tate, and she was pregnant at the time, right?
Yeah, they busted into this party at like mansion. Roman Polanski's house or something.
Yeah,
like that.
And then murdered her and 4 other people, stabbed them all to death multiple times. It's a violent story. I've seen documentaries on it. Yeah. Horrific tale, and I would be interested in seeing this one because the few Manson adaptations I've seen do take place, leading up to the Sharon Tate murder and about the murder, but I'm not familiar with any adaptations. Maybe there's a few or something out there that covers the actual trial itself, because when I watch documentaries of it, I do find myself really fascinated by the trial situation, because Charles Manson didn't himself commit any of these murders. Maybe he killed people, but he wasn't convicted of actually murdering anybody.
Just enticing a lot of other people to do so.
Dude was nuts, man. Dude was nuts. Go on YouTube, look up some Charles Manson interviews, man. Dude's insane.
Yeah, he's a strange guy.
But anyway, with this story, the reason why it's interesting to me is because Tarantino's never done a biopic. And I know, like, when he did Inglourious Basterds, people were wondering, like, what's this gonna be like? And if you watch it, you'll see it's a major piece of historical fiction.
Yeah, there are people, notable people, but none of them are the central characters and stuff. So yeah, I think that'll definitely be interesting to see how he approaches adapting a more real-life story, telling more real people's stories, because, there's always going to be some reality bending, I feel like, when it comes to Tarantino.
And that era, I know he has a specific fascination with. If you look at his movies, a lot of the times his films will pay homage to that kind of style from that era. So I'm wondering how he would shoot this film. Yeah. And hearing that they want to do some courtroom trial stuff and also the detective area of it, I'm wondering, and Tarantino's also known to sort of play with how he moves around time, the time lapses and such. Totally. He can go from this is in the past, then the future, then like he hops around. If you watch Pulp Fiction, you'll see how he messes with time. Reservoir Dogs as well. So it doesn't sound like it'll just be this one super linear film. I'm very curious, and I feel like courtroom drama. Surprisingly, when I heard about this story, I thought courtroom drama. I feel like Tarantino could write some killer courtroom dialogue.
Yeah, I feel like the more I hear about this project, the more interesting it becomes to me, because it seems reasonably clearly he's not just trying to make something ghoulish and horrifying. And I feel like, especially knowing the way Tarantino assembles a movie and how broad and strange this whole story is, there's a lot for him to play around with and jump around in, and I feel like he's a guy who does a lot of research and will really dredge up some interesting things.
I feel like this would be his most different film. Yeah. I mean, I know the Manson story's been done several times before, but you can't really go too Tarantino-y on this one.
Charles Manson on the stand, freeze frame, 70s graphic, Sam Jackson narration.
Narration.
Charles Manson.
And then, know, it's like he's known for pulpy, exploitive violence, and I'm like, I don't think that kind of fun violence would work well in a Charles Manson biopic. You can't really have fun with the violence here.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that.
Yeah.
About that especially, because, you know, this is a very heavy story.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a very touchy subject.
You gotta handle with care, you know?
Yeah, so because I'm thinking, like, will this be Tarantino-esque at all, really? You know?
He's been... it's interesting to watch his career unfold, because I do think, like, even though all of his movies maintain a certain level of pulp and a certain level of Tarantino-ness, the older he's gotten and the later films seem to be pushing in a bit more of a, not restrained, but maybe I would call it mature direction.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And, you know, I hope that this actually sees him maybe relying less on, you know, pulp and violence and more on, you know, his skills as a writer and a dialogue guy. Like, there's gotta be tons of
like, if you go back to, like, his first 3 films,
yeah,
you know, Reservoir, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown, and all 3 of those had some violence in it, but they're not heavy on gore and violence, as opposed to, like, Kill Bill or Hateful Eight or Django or Inglourious. Like, his last few films are a lot heavier on violence. And the thing about it, when you hear about the Charles Manson and the murder of Sharon Tate, that if anyone's familiar with it, it's like, oh, this is a real grisly thing that happened.
Yeah, it's very violent in a way that can't be fun.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I don't know, maybe it sounds to me like maybe he was really into the People versus OJ and wanted to make kind of a story like that.
Maybe. I know a few guys have been trying to do stories like this, because there was a while ago, there was an announcement that Bret Easton Ellis and Rob Zombie were going to do some kind of series about the investigation or whatever.
Rob Zombie one, that would be nasty. I feel like, because Rob Zombie, even though his films are like categorized a lot as horror films, they can feel like have this weird sense of realism where the violence just isn't fun, but disturbing.
Yeah. That's part of what I appreciate. The thing is, I feel like Rob Zombie could do true crime. You know, I feel like it would be uncomfortable, but I feel like he would translate it pretty well, and that would put a set of parameters around him, so not everyone is you know, swearing and speaking in a southern accent.
Oh, I totally agree with that. But as far as Tarantino, hopefully, I mean, you say Tarantino's making a film, I'm excited. It's just that simple. Totally. He's easily the most consistent director around today, next to Martin Scorsese, in my opinion. We'll see who hates me on that. But Tarantino is one of those directors and writers that if I hear he's doing something, I'm most likely going to check it out opening weekend, and we'll probably end up really enjoying the hell out of the film.
Well, the only other thing, too, about this that makes me curious is the earliest word I heard on this movie was that he was researching music from the 70s. And the music business and, like, things like that. And so...
Well, Manson was very into music.
Yeah, and his songs are on iTunes, which is weird. But, so yeah, I also wonder how that's going to play in. You know, maybe he saw Vinyl and OJ back to back and was like, I know what to do.
He's going to make his Baby Driver out of the Charles Manson movie. Oh, boy. All right, guys. So, with War of the Planet of the Apes coming out this weekend, why not talk about this story? The Batman director, Matt Reeves.
Yeah, Keanu's brother.
I never thought of that.
Really?
Yeah. This is the most obvious joke, and I never thought about that.
I'm happy right now. I'm very pleased.
He is not using Ben Affleck's script for the Batman. Just another reason to add on to Ben Affleck's depressed reasons. Another reason for Ben Affleck to be depressed.
Poor Ben. I do kind of feel for him in this situation, because it was like, oh, he's coming and he's going to do everything.
And now direct and write the Batman. This is going to be the coolest, most epic Batman project ever.
And now he's just, you know, he's acting, which is good. Which you know, at least with DC, just needing to focus up and make sure everything's on point. Yeah, focus on just being Bruce.
Yeah, you know, there's pros and cons that I feel towards this storyline. Yeah. I mean, obviously the cons are it's a bummer because I know Ben Affleck was already working his ass off on the script, going on Jimmy Kimmel telling people to chill out and to stop bothering him about it.
Well, and he's I was interested to see what his Batman script would be like, because he's a different kind of a writer.
And he's not just a great director, he's also a fantastic writer as well.
Yeah.
So I was excited just for his script alone. Because, you know, when the big ordeal when they found out, oh, he's not actually going to direct it, but they still will use the script, that was like the saving grace from the filmmaker side of Ben Affleck. Was, well, at least he's still involved with the script and they're going to be using that screenplay. And now Matt Reeves is saying they want to start completely from scratch, which kind of raises another concern. Joe Manganiello. Manganiello. He's supposed to be Deathstroke. Yeah, Deathstroke. Right, no, it's Deadshot and there's Deathstroke. Yeah, he's supposed to be Deathstroke. And they tease like footage that Ben Affleck put up on his Instagram.
Really?
And yeah, they had like this great footage that they were showing that people got really excited for. Some people assume that it might be footage they might tease in Justice League, because Justice League sounds like it's just going to be another movie that's setting up a bunch of other movies.
Yeah.
All the standalone movies are setting up the crossover movies, and all the crossover movies are setting up the standalone films.
Yeah, what is that? That is one. The more we look at this, the more strange that decision plays to me. I'm like, I don't know half these people. Like, I'm going to be distracted by Batman and Wonder Woman this whole time.
So I'm like thinking, well, if they're going to do a completely different script, does that mean Deathstroke's going to be the villain? Is he going to be the guy, or are they going to have to, you know, write him out now? And all that excitement goes out the window, or will he be able to renegotiate for a different character or something? Because that's just kind of I feel sorry for the actor right there.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I'm thinking it's Matt Reeves, you know? And if Matt Reeves wants to use a new script, he should, because he's the director. And at the end of the day, it's a director's medium, whatever the film is. And if Matt Reeves, if we want Matt Reeves to give us the same level of quality filmmaking he made for the last Planet of the Apes films, he has to work from what he really wants to do. He has to work from that. He can't just go in, okay, here's a script, I'm going to adapt this. He has to go in with a fully fledged, the original concept that he feels passionate about in order to give us the film that will be great. Because the only way this film's going to be great is if Matt Reeves is making the movie he actually wants to make.
And that's pretty much what he said when I believe he commented on this too, and basically said, like, yeah, I told WB, I was just like, if I do this, I would feel the most comfortable and the most equipped to give the best movie possible with material I'm familiar with my own script, at least, you know. And it seems like they're going to use... Are they going to use any of the stuff from Ben Affleck's script, or are they scrapping it?
There's no word on that. It sounds like they're just starting again.
Okay. And he basically said, like, that's just what I told WB, and then they were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
we'll take that. So, and he's proven himself capable over time, you know. His filmography is pretty solid, and he's shown us that he can do blockbusters that are more than just blockbusters. That are
emotional.
Yeah, and we need that, and we also need that especially for DC. You know, like, they're off to a good start with Wonder Woman finally hitting a stride like that, and it's, you know, it's capable hands.
Totally. And the other thing about the Matt Reeves story was he was also talking about doing he has kind of a trilogy in mind. Which sounds cool. I mean, why not? If Christopher Nolan had his trilogy, I wouldn't be surprised if another director's like, I want to do my Batman trilogy now. But here's where the but comes in.
I like big butts.
But if Matt Reeves is setting out on that path, I can get a little concerned because, you know, when he did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, he was only signed on for that movie. Mm-hmm. He wasn't signed on for 2 installments. He was signed on for that movie, and so he put his best into that one project, didn't worry about another installment. He's just going to make the best film he could possibly make. Mm-hmm. And if they're in early negotiations for him to do a trilogy, he might be able to pull it off. Yeah. Some people pull off amazing trilogies. I would, however, just like him to focus on this one great Batman movie.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, he seems like a resourceful dude, and I gotta imagine, if you're imagining a Batman trilogy, I'm sure that he's got ideas. But yeah, I feel like right now with DC at all, just one at a time is the way to go. You know, make sure that this is, because that is an inherent problem with franchise building, is that stories get stunted by having to continue forever.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely hope that they just focus up on this Batman.
Nolan talked about that. There's a reason why Nolan took breaks with his Batman films. He talked about that, saying how he doesn't like to preserve or hold on or wait for something for a future installment. He tries to do the best he can, give it his all for the one, use as many of the ideas as possible that'll work fluidly in this one story, instead of going, you know what, let's not put this in here and save it for a future installment.
Yeah. Well, and taking time between allows you to reflect on it,
Yeah.
you know, do something else, get some new inspiration, and come back and go, okay, now how can I continue this?
Yeah, and I don't want a director like Matt Reeves either to sign on for a trilogy and have to spend the next 10 years working on a trilogy, you know?
Yeah, totally. I'm definitely with you on that. You know, and that's the tricky, I think part of the trickiest thing about these kinds of movies is there's a constant demand, and it can lock a filmmaker up for ages.
Yeah,
you know?
It can.
And you know, rushing through them or doing so many in tandem, you know, kind of waters down the storytelling. Sometimes it's nice to miss a character for a little while before they come back.
No.
I'm waiting for the Netflix model where they make like 7 movies and release them all in the same day, so you can just like marathon like a whole decade's worth of
Here's
films.
a franchise in one day. All right, Reject Nation, that's it for today's movie news, the top stories of the week. We got, you know, of course, on our Patreon. You can go to our Patreon, and we have more stories that we cover over there. Just a bunch of other fun stuff as well.
The extended unrated edition of the news.
Do it. Patreon.com/TheRealRejects. But as always, subscribe to The Real Rejects if you're new, and click that notification bell if you're new. Or if you've subscribed already and you just haven't clicked it, click it.
Click it.
John Humphrey on Twitter and Instagram, social media manager at Blumhouse.com. Take care, pipes.